This week's episode of Still Untitled is brought to you by Ops Genie, because incidents happen. Thankfully, Ops Genie empowers devs and ops teams to plan for service disruptions and stay in control during incidents. It also gives teams the power to respond quickly and efficiently to unplanned issues. And it helps notify all the right people through smart combination of scheduling and escalation paths. With Ops Genie, your next incident doesn't stand a chance. Visit opsgenie.com to sign up and get a free company account and add up to 5 team members. That's opsgenie.com. Never miss a critical alert again with Ops Genie.
All right, here we go. In a world full of podcasts, one stands still untitled.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Kate.
You're trying the low voice.
I tried it.
Kayte Sabicer, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes.
I woke up with my voice trashed. Look, our city, San Francisco, at this moment in time is a dystopian hellscape. And I'm not just talking politically.
Well, okay, so we have it's not great here. We have it much better than the places that are actually on fire.
This is totally true.
I mean, our long-term repercussions are much longer term and much less immediately obvious.
Indeed. No, totally. My heart is out. I mean, it's so upsetting. Both the campfire and the ones down south are so pervasive and jumping so quickly and overwhelming so many communities. It's really upsetting.
You know, if we managed our forest better, then we wouldn't have these problems, Adam. It's just in California, we spend them billions of dollars a year, and they just fritter it away on legal weed and train CDs.
Wow, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah.
But no,
but the smoke content in the air is such that from the middle of the Bay Bridge, you can't see San Francisco right now.
It's unavoidable. Like the kids are all locked up inside all the time.
Yeah, my dogs are walking about 10 minutes a day in 3-minute increments.
Everybody on the streets wearing masks.
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, and it feels. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it feels like I have that week after you have a real bad chest cold when it just feels like you're breathing extra, like you're not getting as much air as you need. Yeah. That's what it feels like all the time.
Well, and
it's really great.
I've got the smoke, so I was phlegmy for the last couple of nights. But then I also think I have a very minor cold, and I have this particular constitution where most colds that get to me just stay in my throat. Yeah. I don't get head or body colds. Yeah, so it's fine. It's like I sound terrible. I wake up every morning with a radio voice, and then slowly as the day progresses, it gets more Bobby Brady, and by the end of the day, I sound almost normal. But the thing is, I'm supposed to record an audiobook this afternoon.
Oh boy.
And I was like, guys, I don't think I can do it.
They can just fix it. It'll just auto-tune. They'll fix it in post.
You know, the thing is that you can, for periods of time, I can sound semi-normal. But as I am trying to attenuate my voice for a specific script, I'm going to hit these honk moments, and it's going to make a reasonable VO session be much more difficult.
Well, it's one of those things that if you're thinking about a performance, which you are when you record an audiobook, you don't have the extra bandwidth to think about making sure that your voice doesn't go hog wild.
And frankly, while it sounds to me like I have a radio voice, I've heard recordings of me when I have a cold, and it's really obvious that I have a cold.
Yeah,
it's not like that's not smoking, that's illness.
Yeah, you don't sound like Katharine Hepburn. I'm sorry.
I do usually enjoy when my voice gets deeper with a cold because I have a normal person's voice instead of this high 8-year-old tone.
So hello everybody.
It's Thanksgiving week.
It is Thanksgiving week.
As
this is being played, we're recording this a week early, but as this is being played, my wife and I are in Vienna. Yeah, so we are going to participate in a couple of events, but we're also going to do a bunch of sightseeing, and I think there's going to be some trains involved and absolutely lots of really great food.
Yes.
Beautiful. Probably no turkey though, huh?
No, so we are gonna we're going to miss the turkey dinner. Maybe we'll do it when we get back.
Yeah, I mean, nothing says it has to be on the day.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not like the Pilgrims did it on the day.
I love Thanksgiving cuisine. I'm like a big fan of
Really?
the whole menu. I like a good spatchcocked turkey.
Oh yeah, I spatchcock the hell out of a turkey every year.
Obviously, I, as a vegetarian, I've always just gone nuts for the sides. Even as a kid, when I ate meat, I just, give me all the potatoes and greens.
The yams with marshmallow topping.
Yeah.
And
I don't like the marshmallow. Look, I'll go hog on a green bean casserole, But the marshmallow yams, not so much.
Oh,
we were
man.
just a sliced sweet potatoes with some brown sugar on top.
No, I like the full yams. I love pecan pie too.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, see, we're pumpkin and apple. I don't even,
Yeah.
I only make pecan if we have a guest that really is into pecan pie. But the spatchcock turkey, like we've talked about it before on the podcast.
Kenji Lopez Alt is going off on it on Twitter.
Well, so he said he's doing a pulled turkey recipe that I haven't looked at the recipe yet. But it seemed interesting. It's like a slow cooked, and you end up with like essentially a pulled turkey,
Nice.
which I'm
Wow.
fascinated by.
Wow.
But the spatchcocking, if you haven't done it, America's Test Kitchen redid Julia Child's spatchcock recipe from the
Ooh.
60s
Wow.
a few years ago, and that kind of opened me up to spatchcocking. And it is the thing that's neat about that is you actually debone the thighs, and then you put some sage and salt and pepper in there and kind of tie it up like a roulade.
Wow.
And you end up with a really like perfectly cooked thigh, perfectly cooked breast, and the entirety of the stuffing goes underneath the turkey, so it all gets the turkey fat in it.
Drips
It's probably
into
not
it.
great for your people,
no,
but
no, no. I mean, my family loves it.
okay. But it makes all the stuffing taste like the stuffing that goes inside the turkey's butt.
Yum.
Yeah,
Yay, meat.
yeah. It's not. But yeah. So
I do always look forward to it. My family grows apples. They have an apple orchard. And so every year I go and I harvest it. And usually at that time, around October, I'll make a couple of pies and then I'll freeze them. And so I always have one for Thanksgiving
wow.
to pull out and have fresh apple pie. And there's an area that specializes in Gravenstein apples, which if you've never had one, they taste like a Starburst. They're amazing.
What?
They're fantastic. And they're beautiful, streaky with yellow and red. But they're this tart and sweet at the same time. It's sort of like a Granny Smith mixed in there, and it makes a delicious pie.
like a Granny Smith with a Macintosh.
Yeah.
That sounds really
Incredible. Where is your family's apple orchard?
It is in Occidental in Sonoma County.
Oh, you know, Mr. Jamie Heineman grew up on an apple orchard.
I didn't know that.
In fact, yeah, he one of those pick your own apple
Ooh.
orchards,
Ooh, I
and
love
he
those.
was often in charge of making sure everything was running smoothly. He would ride a horse all over the property.
No, he didn't.
Young teenage
Wow.
Jamie Heineman with hair past his shoulders, riding a horse
With a mustache, I hope?
I have no idea. No, I don't think so.
Imagine.
Oh.
He showed me a picture once of him in high school, and I mean, with this long, straight Richard O'Brien hair,
Wow.
like blonde, all the way past his
Wow.
shoulders.
It's been like the 70s or early 80s, probably. Like
Actually, yeah, early 70s.
Early 70s,
yeah.
Wow. And where was that?
Columbus, Indiana.
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up on a cut your own Christmas tree farm,
Ooh.
which like
Official or unofficial?
we charged people. there were cash transactions.
Okay, good.
We did have an occasional person try to drive up and steal a tree late at night. We usually just gave it to them because if you're desperate enough to steal a Christmas tree, probably you could use the $10 Christmas tree.
Oh.
But it was interesting living on a farm that people came to harvest something,
Right.
because they just show up at like 6 o'clock in the morning ready to cut a tree. And then they get about halfway through cutting down a tree. And like, I don't want to cut a tree. Is there anybody here who can cut a tree for me? And
that's what you
that
have
was
to
where I
do?
came in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
That was a good time.
It's a good job for a kid,
It is.
right? Your bones are all made of plastic. You recover from injuries
That's
quickly.
true. Like fingers still grow back at that age.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to use chainsaws or anything because I was like 12.
Right.
So we had hand saws.
the double.
No, just the one,
Oh, really?
one-sided
Just a
one.
normal-
'cause
wow.
they're- like, it's a
Christmas
Christmas tree.
trees
It's
aren't
like
too
Oh,
big.
I see
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
saying.
around.
It's
But
not like a giant sequoia. Or
yeah, no, we're not lumberjacking. We're not cutting down the old growth.
I love going down those YouTube holes of tree surgery gone wrong.
oh man.
Oh man, have you ever watched those guys work in practice? Like we had an 80-foot Monterey cypress in the backyard that had to be cut down about 10 years ago.
Genuine tree work, watching it being done by professionals is an unalloyed pleasure, and it's like going to the freaking circus.
Yeah,
I
it's like a ballet.
Yeah, if I didn't feel like a jerk, I would have put a lawn chair out in the backyard, just propped up so I could watch them the whole time.
Yeah.
Because like when the guy who came out to assess the tree at first, who was like the lead contractor on the job, came. He was like this 80-year-old guy, and he looked at the tree. He's like, "Well, this one's got to come down so I can use my spikes." and he was excited, right? So he usually doesn't get to use the boot spikes because they're bad.
Usually
for the
put on a
trees
full
now.
ninja costume.
And he was 60 feet up in that tree before you blinked. Like I went inside to get a flashlight because it was at 9:00 at night, and he was like, "I'll be right back," and he's just up the tree, boom, like nothing.
Wow.
And this was it was a 14-foot diameter stump when it came down, and it had cracked at the base. So it was there was nothing we could do to save the tree.
Right.
But they took it down in like 3 days, and it's on a property line there where it could hit 4 or 5 houses if it had fallen.
Wow.
Right.
And they took it down in just 10-foot segments, and they'd tie it off on the bottom and the top, and then cut it, and it would swing, and then they'd lower it down.
And all of that knowledge that they have. I mean, the thing about what I was talking about, YouTube videos of tree surgery gone wrong, is because it's a really complex engineering feat with things that don't behave the way you think they're going to behave, that
Right.
they can get caught up on stuff. And so watching real professionals do it is such a... So there's a video that just went viral a few days ago of some guys who were... Like they'd cut a branch, and as it swung off the tree, they're letting it out, so it literally swings over to a truck where they boop, drop it in the back of the
Wow.
flatbed.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
These guys. One of the things that they have that I'd never seen before is a giant belt that goes around the base of the tree. It's like a nylon webbing that was like a foot wide, and then it has maybe an 18-inch diameter, what looks like a tire, a wheel hub on a car.
Yeah.
That they wrap around, and they use that as the brake on the belay, so that one guy can lower 400 pounds of log without having to use like a block and tackle or something off just a single pulley. And it's amazing. Like it's so much. And they don't go to arborist school for this. Like
Right.
these guys go on. And the guy who's the 80-year-old was like, "Yeah, I apprenticed when I was 14 years old, and I worked for the city for a long time, and I've just been cutting down big trees in Northern California my entire life. It's what I do." It was very cool.
Yeah, I love watching specialized craftspeople like that
Oh,
apply their
definitely.
trade. Right? What was that?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. It's probably fine.
I recently had a few trees cut down that are actually quite large, and I asked the tree service to leave the logs because I desperately want to make things out of them and have it be part of my house or furniture or outside, something like that. And now I've been falling into these YouTube holes of like, okay,
Milling.
what if I tried to somewhat mill it to start with, because I'm having a hard time actually finding mills that will come get it, transport it, work with it. And I do find that I'm just mesmerized. Like it's the, crappiest quality videos and like cheesy music on top of it, because it's just some guy who did it and his wife like uploaded
Oh
it.
yeah, people with their they've bolted a chainsaw onto some arrangement
Yes.
of old farm equipment they had, and they're like pulling logs through
Yep.
it. Speaking of which, I really could use a 18-inch diameter, 3-foot high stump in the shop.
I'm your guy.
Okay, all right.
I got you.
That's really necessary for the kind of armor hammering that Terry English taught me. And I want to make an armor hammering bowl out of a stump.
I've got many kinds of trees for you to choose
Yay! I've been waiting for months for such a thing.
You got
Perfect.
I saved a couple of big chunks of like the heartwood of the tree.
from. Yeah,
That have just been sitting in my garage aging, so they dry out basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they're probably getting close enough. I was thinking I might make bowls out of them, but I got to look and see what the cypress.
Oh yeah,
If you can use cypress for bowls.
The
without killing yourself.
the jet wood lathe that I have here, I should show it to you. We did a bowl turning episode of Untested, and I learned from this wonderful woman, and then I finished the bowl on my lathe. It's totally sufficient for bowl turning. You should take a look.
Oh,
And it's a
you're-
very reasonably priced wood lathe.
Okay.
With variable speed and super plenty powerful for exactly that kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
I've been looking at taking wood turning classes so I
Yeah.
can make some bowls as well.
It's
I'm-
so much fun.
It looks
Yeah,
really
it looks
cool.
so
it looks
much
really
fun.
It looks
satisfying.
so satisfying. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love lathing with wood. It's
Yeah.
really, really fun.
It seems Okay. So what are you guys working on? What's going on in the shop?
I am starting on the next show I'm working on for the Science Channel.
Mythbusters Seniors. 25 old people.
Look, it's I won't lie. It's definitely got some of that DNA in it because it's me. But literally just this week we've started official pre-production on it, and Mythbusters Junior is going to air starting January 2nd. 10 episodes. I couldn't be prouder of them. I cannot wait to see the world receive these 6 new Mythbusters and embrace them into their hearts.
They are a delight. I've met them a few times, and I've been chatting, and we keep up on social media with a few of the kids, and I just love them. And what's funny is that I feel bad referring to them as the kids too, because for so much of it, like, I have so much to learn from them. Like, they are all so capable.
I worked really hard on set to not say kids as much as possible,
Right.
just to say Mythbusters, colleagues, friends, these fellow scientists.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's funny to step back and be like, oh, right, they're 14.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't even believe, like, I'm not sure what I was doing at 14, but it definitely wasn't as advanced as what they're doing.
No, not at all. So that's been really fun. The show involves a lot of collaboration between me and some wonderful folks, and we're just reaching out on those collaborations, and we're receiving pretty much unalloyed cooperation and excitement from people I want to play with. So that's really exciting. More details about this show will be coming very soon, but for right now, we've just started rolling up our sleeves.
You guys last week recorded a podcast with Norm, so you talked about the new addition to the Tested family a
Yes,
little bit.
Avery,
Very
Norm and Danica's beautiful baby boy.
Very good. Congratulations from all of us. I wasn't here
Yes,
last week, so I didn't get to say, but yeah.
So exciting.
I
I loved seeing. Look, Norm is a force of nature who works so incredibly hard. Like, I can't believe what Norm can get done in a normal day. And it was delightful to see him really at the end of his exhaustion rope the other day, just like a
couldn't
kind of a
stop
wrung out
yawning.
washcloth.
So we went, Gina and I went to see them when they were in the hospital still, and then Gina went back to help, like, just give an extra pair of hands the next day. And she said, after she'd been there for a few hours, she's like, Norm said, hey, so when do you get to sleep again? and Gina said, well, I mean, our daughter's 6 almost, and not yet. So,
Yeah, there's the point at which they start to be able to. Well, so we went through this thing, right? They get to about at about 6 or 7, about this age, you start to be able to, like, tell them you could go turn on cartoons on Saturday morning so mom and dad can sleep in.
Right.
If you have 2 kids, that just means you can go spend 5 minutes pretending to watch TV before you start to fight, and I have to get up and take care of it.
you could get 2 TVs.
Well, so with our boys, thing 1 and thing 2, they did that for years. They got up on Saturday mornings and watched TV, and that was great. My wife and I slept in. And then around about my 40th birthday, I guess I can't quite remember, do all the math in my head about how old they were. I think they're about just under 8 years old. I bought myself a brand new Sony Bravia 40-inch television, which at that point was like the biggest LCD TV you could get. And it was beautiful. And it was my 40th birthday present to myself. And I probably told this story on the podcast before years ago. But I'm woken up at 6 in the morning on my birthday. And it's thing 1. And he said, my brother and I were playing with lightsabers, and we accidentally smacked the TV.
Oh, no.
And so this is the first news I have at 6 a.m. and I'm like, oh, and I start to think, okay, let's be positive about this. What are all the things they could have hurt on the TV that won't destroy it? Maybe they knocked the speaker grill off. Maybe they dented the outer frame. And so I said, hoping for a certain kind of answer, I said, what happened, buddy? And he said, something colorful.
Oh,
no, the magic got out.
And I swear to God, in the middle of this screen was a perfect rose of broken glass death of this 2-day-old television.
Did you get the extended warranty?
Actually, the other hot part of this story is that as I bought that TV, it was the only time I have ever said, "Do you know who I am?"
Wow.
Oh.
And this is an important lesson, Adam.
No, and it's because I was buying the television at Best Buy, and the guys at Best Buy are awesome. And then he's like, oh, yeah, we'll set you up with this TV. And this other guy comes over and he goes, hey, are you going to plug that TV into the wall? And I'm like, that's the plan. And he's like, you're going to need a power scrubber for that. And I'm like, no, I won't. It's got a transformer built right in. And he goes, no, you really need a power scrubber. And I said, who do you think you're talking to? And he went, I'm sorry, you're right. It's the only time I've ever pulled Mythbuster rank.
That's one of my favorite. Like back in the days when you used to go to retail to buy electronics, you'd be walking around the store and you'd hear somebody usually giving good advice to customers. Like it's usually in people's best interest to tell them the right thing.
Absolutely.
But every once in a while you'd be like, you should get these cables. They're gold plated and they're going to carry the bits better. And it's a digital cable. And you're like, probably not. You don't need to spend $60 on that. That's a $3 cable, buddy. And I used to tell people, I used to not a confrontation, but just be like, hey, that cable doesn't, you can buy the cheapest one that they have or just go to the internet and buy an even cheaper one.
Right.
You'll be fine. And the sales guy caught me doing it one time. And he was a viewer. He had seen tested videos. This was, I think, before we were even involved with you.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I appreciate you doing that. He was very cool about it, but he was kind of broken and sad. And I was like, oh, I made this person feel really, really bad. But also he was kind of scamming this nice old lady.
Well, I mean, he's only being forced to scam by his bosses who are giving him quotas to hit and all that stuff.
So
I don't blame the on the ground. I don't blame the on the ground employees. All of this is a long way of saying that after my kids broke my television, it required a response. And the response was no television all summer.
Oh, wow.
This happened right on my birthday, which is mid-July. And I was like, all right, till the end of August, no more television.
Harsh.
Oh, yeah.
Does that mean movies too?
No, family movies were different.
Okay.
But but effectively, we didn't watch any television for the rest of the summer.
Because it was
Yeah.
broken.
And I will say that my kids were so much easier to deal with for the rest of the day when they didn't wake up on television.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah. And so we just stopped letting them watch TV in the mornings forever after that because when they did, they were dicks. It's the same thing.
What were you letting them watch, man?
No, listen, I mean, it's just there's a way in which I felt like when they're waking up is greeted by like you can see anything you want, and it's just this reception. They are much more. I felt like they were much more entitled for the rest of the day. And actually, later on, when Thing 2 got really into video games, we had to point out to him that after you've played for 2 or 3 hours, you are like really hard to be around. You're loud and you're kind of bombastic and you're a little more kind of fighty, and that's super intense. And like, to his credit, he was like, he saw it and he modified his behavior.
That's the thing you definitely see. Like people, especially if you're not aware that that's the thing that happens when you play competitive games. I mean, it happens when you play football or baseball or whatever too.
And I don't look. This isn't a way of saying I think that video games are bad or evil or that they're some sort of cultural scourge or anything. I don't. But that was something we noticed empirically in our house and adjusted accordingly.
Well, it's the old, when you play like a video game that involves you driving maybe recklessly, and then you turn off the video game, go get in the car, and you're sitting there looking, you're like, man, that sidewalk looks pretty good right now. I could just cut off 5 minutes by running over a few pedestrians on the way to the next stop. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically learned how to drive on Monaco Grand Prix on Sega Genesis.
It's pretty good. It's a good game. Yeah.
We have been watching. A couple weeks ago, we watched a bunch of the CNN documentary, The 90s.
Oh,
which
I've heard that's amazing.
Super enjoyable. It's
good
weird
decade.
to have a decade when I was already a functioning rent-paying adult be a decade of nostalgia. That's peculiar. But now we're watching the 70s, and that's even cooler because that's my childhood. That's my youth, right?
A lot of screen printed shirts.
Yeah, a lot of Happy Days, a lot of Norman Lear. I mean, they're really, really pleasurable to watch. Tom Hanks is one of the executive producers and one of the regular. I know he's a dreamboat.
Love of my life.
So that's been really enjoyable watching that.
Awesome.
Recapitulating our culture.
Before we continue on with the conversation, I want to let you know that this episode is also made possible by KiwiCo. KiwiCo creates super cool hands-on projects for kids that make learning about STEAM fun. KiwiCo projects are designed to spark creativity, tinkering, and learning in kids of all ages. Their mission is to provide the next generation of innovators with tools and foundation to become creative problem solvers and critical thinkers. KiwiCo's projects are super fun, educational, and convenient. Every crate includes all the supplies needed for that month's projects, detailed, easy-to-follow instructions written specifically for kids, and an educational magazine to learn even more about that crate's theme. KiwiCo inspires kids to see themselves as makers, engineering and creating their own innovative designs and outcomes, and they have 6 lines of projects to choose from, like the Tadpole Crate for kids 0 to 2, all the way up to the Tinker Crate for teens. If you're looking for a gift this holiday season for kids of any age, check out KiwiCo. And KiwiCo is offering today's listeners the chance to try these projects out for free. To redeem this offer and learn more about projects for kids, visit kiwico.com/untitled. Once again, that's kiwico.com/untitled to try these projects out for free. Now back to the conversation.
We have started watching TV with the kiddo at night, and she's very into
Making a murderer?
Manhunter. Actually, we figured true crime is a good place to start
Yeah.
the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Dead. Dexter.
Yeah, we went straight to True Detective season 1, and she's a little creeped out by all the wooden monster things, but it seems like it's going to be fine. We've been watching American Ninja Warrior Jr., which is a new American Ninja Warrior.
One of my favorite shows.
It's great. I mean, the original Ninja Warrior from Japan was awesome.
So amazing.
The American Ninja Warrior, the adult version, is very, very good. This, they take 3 age ranges starting at like 9 and going up to 15 or 16, I think, and they kind of bracket them out in groups, and then they do head-to-head races against each other. And they each get like 2 passes through the course, so nobody's single eliminated. It's really, really good. They do a good job telling the kids stories, but there's also a lot of actual time on the obstacle course, which is kind of my one complaint about American Ninja Warrior,
Right.
the grown-up version, is it's a lot of talking about how awesome the people are, and maybe not so much of them running the obstacle courses. But they put these 9-year-olds on the same obstacles as the grown-ups do.
Wow.
And they don't chain 12 of them together.
Right.
But like the some of the older kids do the wall where you chin up
Yeah,
one side, the
yeah.
triangle inside the pyramid, and down the other side, and stuff like that. And it's incredible. And it's the thing that's most fascinating to me about it is how chill the kids are about the competition, while also being really intense about the competition.
Right.
Like they're going as hard as they can until they either wipe out or get to the end, and then they hug the competitor at the end, and it's really positive and good
Right.
and awesome.
It's sort of like watching any of the British competition shows where it's sort of
The Great
very
British
wholesome.
Bake Off.
Have you been watching the new season?
No.
Well, so
Is it good? I've been afraid to.
Yeah, so I'm partial to the new hosts are Sandy and Noel, and I'm a huge fan of Mighty Boosh with Noel Fielding, and QI, the new host, is Sandy.
Yeah.
So I was already just rearing to go, and my favorite thing to do is we're very close to Tartine, which is the delicious bakery. So I'll go during the day knowing that I'm going to watch at night and buy myself my favorite lemon tart. And then as I'm watching them bake, I'm eating the most delicious tart in the world. So it's fantastic.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live about half a block from Tartine, and that was a great bonus of having teenagers, as we made them go wait online for the bread.
Netflix just put the first few seasons up, the ones that you couldn't get in the U.S. until
Yes,
recently.
and I can't wait to do those.
They're very interesting. It's funny. It's really fun watching the kind of evolution of that.
Right.
Because it changed a fair amount from the first
It got
season or two.
more reality showish a little bit, where it's much more drama. Like the music comes through and they're down to the wire. Whereas in the first seasons, it's very much I'm trying to finish this.
I think the only season I've watched all the way through is season 2.
Okay.
Okay.
That's back with Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood.
Yes.
The physical embodiment of a husky.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Piercing eyes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. The
Plus, he loves treats.
he loves-
Treats.
Peanut butter treats, especially. Yeah.
Of course. It's fun. Like, the thing that I like about that show is it's relentlessly, it's so positive. They don't do the thing where they try to keep people up for 36 hours
Right.
and break them. They actually send them home with the challenge at the end
Yep.
of one
Exactly.
episode.
Love that one.
Yes.
So that they can have a week to practice at home
Yep.
before they come back to
Yeah.
the
No,
tent the
that's
next weekend. It's
incredible.
really good.
You should hear Tracy Desjardins has extolled has told us many stories of being on MasterChef
Top Chef
Top
Masters.
Chef Masters, and how grueling that shoot really is, and how disconnected you end up getting from reality, because it's like 16 solid days and incredibly long. And when you're done with all the cooking, it's like hours and hours of videotaped interviews at the end of every day.
Right.
It's just
Well, they stick you in the room with infinite wine, hoping
Yeah,
that people are going to
yeah.
get loaded
Yep.
and
yeah.
dish. And
She and Mary Sue Milliken have I've heard some really great toe curling stories from
Oh
them.
my gosh. I had a friend who did casting for one of the Gordon Ramsay shows where it's the competition.
Master
Mm-hmm.
Chef.
No, it's the it's like Hell's Kitchen.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so it was their job to bring in the diners that would have to eat the food that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
making. And so a bunch of my friends used to go all the time. They're like, yeah, we're going to go eat this meal. But one of the things about it is that on camera, it doesn't look good to see the difference in like wine glasses and like how much you've drank. And so for like, for what do you call it? Continuity, they're constantly refilling. So by the end of the night, and it takes hours, by the end of the night, the diners are just trash.
Sloppy.
And
Wow.
so actually for to make sure they don't get in trouble, the production always pays for people to take cabs home because people leave there just trashed. But it sounds like a fun night, I guess. You get to eat some food.
It's a fun night. It's not a fun next day.
No.
I always wanted to go to the Top Chef meals when they did them here.
Yeah.
But like it always seems it always seems fascinating. I'm sure that the food is like by the time you get served or whatever, it's going
Right.
to be you're going to look at cold meals and
Yeah,
yada yada.
that's
Yeah.
got to be really intense too.
But I think it's got to be super intense. Like it's always fun. One of the things when we used to go to the coffee convention, the specialty coffee convention of America, where you have like the world's best baristas making coffee, is the most interesting coffee I've ever had is when baristas are showing off for their peers, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing happens when you see chefs showing off for their peers or whatever.
Right.
And I have to imagine when you see people that are in like the heat of this competition, they're going to leave nothing on the table, and it's either going to be amazing or terrible.
Right. But it's going to be all yeah.
Memorable for sure.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the things that I delight so much in Great British Bake Off is how much the show itself works to encourage the best from its contestants. It does not
Totally.
work to inhibit them. It works to augment them.
And they all try to help each other. If
Yeah.
somebody's running behind, the other one's like, "What can I do? How can I help
Oh,
you?"
I
And you're
know,
just
I
like, "Oh,
know.
humanity."
No, I said this back when I first saw I watched the whole season a couple of years ago, a whole season on a flight back from England, and somewhere around the third episode, I burst into tears, and it really was because I was confronted with what I was the most loving television I had ever watched.
I mean, that's
Yes.
it. Yeah,
Yes.
it's when you watch Big Brother or Survivor or something like that, and I love Survivor, just to
Yeah,
be clear. I
yeah.
like Big Brother. Like, I think the best job in the world is to design puzzles for Big Brother or Survivor because
Yeah.
it seems like a blast.
I'll help you do that sometime.
Oh,
if you
let's.
want.
I mean,
do it.
look. Okay. But they like those puzzles are designed to break people down and make them as small and as hurt and as broken as they
Yes.
can.
Yeah.
And like when you watch the Bake Off and somebody gets frustrated and chucks their cake in the trash, and Mary Berry and Paul Holly were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you threw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Because if you'd brought us like just the failed components, we could have at least judged the cake and
Right,
the
right.
you know and the components, if not the full assembly and the and they're there to lift people up. I mean, the anecdote that everybody always shares is when somebody was crying, the host would come by and stand and drop horrific obscenities so that
they
the footage
couldn't
was
put it on
unusable.
camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
and I
the
did that.
sweetest
I
thing.
know. I know.
Anyway.
I will say that per your discussion of American Ninja Warrior for kids, MasterChef Junior
It's great.
was one of our North Stars while making Mythbusters Junior.
Yeah.
It really was, in terms of, this is about helping. This is about them working together.
Gina started watching that, and I said, "Look, I don't need Gordon Ramsay yelling at small children. That seems not okay."
What a pussycat.
Yeah, and
What a
he's super sweet.
pussycat. Oh
Like,
my God.
If he was that guy, I think I would probably really like Gordon Ramsay.
Well,
it turns out.
Have you ever watched his Kitchen Nightmares,
The BBC
British one?
yeah.
He's actually such a sweetheart.
Really?
Where he's
Oh, no.
like, there's no screaming, there's no yelling. It's
Well, there's
him,
still some nut jobs that he has to
Yeah.
dress down.
but a lot of times it's him just being like, hey, let's try and get your business back on track.
Well, it's
The Paris one. with the entitled young woman. I feel totally okay to say
Wow.
that. The
Yes.
entitled young
Shots
woman
fired.
trying to run a vegan restaurant in downtown Paris, right?
Bold choice.
Which is in and of itself,
Yeah.
with a cook who doesn't think that salt is okay to use. And Ramsay shows up and he like fires their bad chef, teaches them how to make a quiche and serve it repeatedly, and brings in this young Irish woman who's like 19. And she's just lightning in a bottle. And you can see how much Gordon appreciates her and thinks she's great and sets her up and gives her these recipes for success, and pun intended. And then when he checks back in 6 weeks later, the restaurant's shut down. And he's sitting on the steps of the restaurant with the young chef. And she's like, yeah, she stopped listening to what you said and it just deteriorated. And then they closed the doors. And Ramsay says, right, well, if they don't know what they've got in you here, I know what I've got in you, so I'm gonna bring you to London and set you up in one of my kitchens.
I mean, that kind of stuff. It's great. Yeah, that's what reality TV should be.
I also have a friend who worked with Ramsay recently and told me, oh no, his team loves him. He is the real deal. He's really great. He's awesome, and you'd love him.
Well, it's funny because it's one of those things we talked about. I think you talked about with Dave Chang during the talking room, maybe. About how the culture of kitchens has changed, and that kind of screaming and yelling behavior was, if not tacitly approved, but kind of expected in a lot of cases. And it seems like that's maybe not as much the case anymore, at least in most kitchens.
Well, and I think there are wonderful outposts that have been around for years. Like Tracy Desjardins has raised like 2 or 3 generations. It's a shorter generation within chef world of San Francisco chefs out of a totally different kind of a kitchen, a much more, still a rigorous working environment that will kick your ass and leave you a wet rag, and yet with love instead of abuse.
It's there was a really great article, I think, in the Chronicle maybe 4 or 5 years ago about like a day in the life at the French Laundry, right?
Ooh.
And what their whole, and I love learning about people's process.
Yeah.
And they went through the whole thing, and they talk about prep, which is kind of to be expected, and it's more or less the same as everywhere except for it's at the French Laundry. And then the interesting thing to me was at the end of every service, they sit down and everybody eats everything, and they try some new dishes and stuff like that, and everybody has family meal, and then they literally break down everything that went right and wrong with that service every single day.
Wow.
Which is astounding, right?
That's like NASA.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. It's like NASA, but food.
Yeah.
And that that kind of approach you can apply to so much more than just your restaurant thing. How often do we finish something and then just
really
move on to
it.
the next thing
Right,
before even
right.
thinking about what we did right, what we did wrong, all
Exactly.
that.
It could be an exhausting process, but it is good in the long run that they're doing that. That's awesome.
Cool.
I feel like that's a great place to stop. We don't have Norm to ask what's coming up on the site this week.
I'm sure there's really good stuff. I don't know. He's gonna make some stuff. Maybe not a one-day build. I don't know.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Yes,
everybody.
happy Thanksgiving, and thank you to all the firefighters that are tirelessly working to
Yes.
help all of us.
Yeah,
the troops who've been deployed to our southern border, who apparently will be eating MREs for Thanksgiving. We wish you guys
Thanks,
a happy
guys.
Thanksgiving too.
Yeah. So that's a good place I need to wrap it up. See you all next week. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening this week. And once again, this episode of Still Untitled was made possible by KiwiCo, creators of super cool hands-on projects for kids of all ages that are designed to spark creativity and make learning about STEAM fun. KiwiCo's mission is to provide the next generation of innovators with the tools to become creative problem solvers and critical thinkers with projects that are fun, educational, and convenient. KiwiCo is offering you, today's listeners, the chance to try these projects out for free. To redeem this offer and learn more about their projects for kids, visit kiwico.com/untitled. We'll see you next week.